Teddy Covers. Teddy Covers coming to us live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Teddy Covers, how about those Hornets? Too easy, Teddy. Too easy. Welcome to the show. Great to see you. Happy Thursday morning to you, my friend.
Did you watch the last minute of that first half?
I did. It was so funny. I actually wasn't watching it live. I was doing a live show here, and I had the ESPN on because if I'm watching it live, I can't pay attention to the show. But if I just have the scores going up and the whatever they call this scorecast or whatever it is, it doesn't take away. And I still, man, it was making me so uncomfortable. But I loved how we handled that game, and I was happy to get success there. Great job. And how else did you do last night?
It was a good night for me last night. We won in college hoops. We won in the NBA. Just about in the NBA, everything. Of course, the night where I'm like, all right, I'm frustrated in the NBA. I'm not going to do anything. And, of course, everything I liked came through. If I would have been deeper, I'd have gotten more. Blazers were good last night. And college hoops was good last night as well. So no complaints here on a Thursday morning. But all that's rearview mirror, Jimmy. You know how it is. Yesterday was good. Great. What's today going to bring? So it's nothing to hang your hat on.
Absolutely, but I was because I had a bad start to the week, so I was very thankful to get out of it. Very thankful to get out of it. Let's move over to the NBA, and I want to start with a question that Ronald Durante wanted us to ask Junior Brown on Monday, and he got in right away, and I just missed it. I missed it. And I was going over my notes from the earlier days, and I was like, And so I'd like to ask you this question here from Ronald Durante. He says, I want to bet the Raptors plus 480 and the Celtics plus 300 to win the Atlantic Division. I'm a Sixers fan, but a quarter way through the season, I get two teams at 2-1 with better records. What do you think of Ronald Durante's look there?
Anytime that you're making a bet that's not two options, yes or no, team A or team B, anytime there's three or more options, the house takeout is more. So whatever bets you're making in those situations, they really have to be positive expectation wagers for them to be good bets. So you're talking about taking two teams in, I guess it's December now, in December to win the division. And I don't argue with the concept that both those teams are live to win the division at all. I think they are. The issue is the price you're getting. You're going to lay 2 units. You're going to get 3 back if the one wins. You're going to get 4 and change back if the other wins. You're going to get nothing back and lose the 2 units if the Sixers end up winning that division. And make an argument, all right, it's coin flip right now. All 3 teams are live. That's still not a great positive expectation bet. You're laying 2 to win 3 or 4. You'll lose 1 out of those 2. So you're actually winning 2 or 3 and units, and then you're leaving one of the teams out of the option. So it's not personally a bet that I would make. I wish you luck.
Let's talk about this NBA card right now. I pulled the trigger on the Raptors, and Kyle Lowry, 2 for 18 from the field. I'm getting minus 114 on the money line with the Raptors against a Rocket team that's 5-5 on the road. The Rocket team that rarely puts together 48 minutes. A 500 team on the road against a 9-1 team at home. I pulled the trigger. And I just felt like I had to pull the trigger. What do you think of this Rockets-Raptors spot?
So I couldn't do it, and I wasn't really looking at the Toronto side. When you have your point guard come back, okay, and this happens all the time, the market say, all right, well, the team's better. But it takes a couple games to find that rhythm. Lowry was off. I wouldn't be surprised if Lowry's off again tonight. And we are talking about a Rockets team that's off, what did they blow, a 26-point lead, 16 points in the fourth quarter in their last outing. I'm not in a rush to take Toronto tonight. It's not a game. I didn't play the other side, but Houston's a better team.
So, see, this isn't a neutral court spot,
No.
That's why I just feel that at a pick'em, that if these guys play 50 times in Toronto, the Raptors are going to win 30 of them. Is that a fair
I'll
statement?
take the under. I'd say about 25.
I'd say about 25.
It's pick'em. It's a pick'em game. You really think Toronto would win 30 if they played 50 times in Toronto?
I do. I do.
Then in that case, I mean, I'm not playing the game, so don't let me talk you out of it, Jimmy, by any stretch of the imagination. But I think Houston's a better team, and I'm not convinced. Just like with the injuries, talk about when guys get hurt, we're like, no, we don't adjust off the injury. We adjust off the team's performance following the injury, because oftentimes guys get hurt, the team's just fine. And other times somebody gets hurt and the team just completely falls apart. So I don't adjust off the injury. I adjust off the reaction. Here's a situation where Lowry's back. The market's adjusted already. I'm going to adjust off the results, not off the return. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, definitely. I definitely see what you're saying. Pasting more questions for Teddy. Have you made any moves on this NBA card? That's the only move I've made thus far.
I made one move on the NBA card. I took the Phoenix Suns plus 3.5 in New Orleans. Love the quotes out of the Phoenix last night post-game. They're like, we just played like crap. We didn't bring it. That's not happening 2 nights in a row. I can't wait to get to New Orleans tomorrow. Nobody played more than 30 minutes. Only one guy reached 30 minutes. But Phoenix is better than Toronto. They're catching, or it's in Toronto. They're not better than Toronto. They're better than New Orleans. They're catching points. And I understand situationally, all right, second of back-to-backs off a loss in which they didn't bring their A game. New Orleans can't be laying. They're a work in progress and will continue to be a work in progress. Defensively, they're not there. I thought it was a wrong team favored situation. I got Phoenix plus the points, and I expect to have some money line in my pocket. I haven't bet it yet, but I'll put something in my pocket before tip off on that one.
I just feel like when Frank Kaminsky's at the 5, it doesn't matter if he goes 10 for 12 from the field. The paint is open for anybody to use it, and that I understand Phoenix is a better team, but Frank Kaminsky at the 5, no thank you. I just can't believe in this basketball team with him there, lollygagging around the perimeter. But I understand that you're going heads up against the Joey Work play of the day from our chat on the Pelicans. Interesting spot, and Teddy seeing things very clearly in NBA right now, backing the Suns plus the points and make it in with the money line. Okay, Teddy, before we get into NCAA football and NCAA basketball, we need to talk about this Thursday nighter, Bears Cowboys. I still have not pulled the trigger. Yes, Christopher Comtini, we can go over college football definitely because Teddy may have some additions to his card, but I have yet to pull the trigger. I want to pull the trigger on the Bears, but I understand why I'm pensive. What are you doing? Are you doing anything? And if you were, what would you be doing for the Thursday nighter?
So I'm going to move on the Thursday night game. I played the over 43. Most Thursday night games, you have teams have to have a limited game plan. They play it on Sunday. Somebody's got to travel. Everyone's got to recuperate, and you got to get a game plan installed in 3 days. Doesn't happen often very well, and that's why Thursday night football tends to be uglier than your average NFL game. Not this week. Both teams played last Thursday. Both teams had a full week to get a game plan in. The weather's supposed to be reasonable. I believe in the Cowboys' offense, and we've seen Trubisky throw the football around reasonably well the last couple of weeks. I took a shot with the over. I thought 43 is very reasonable in this spot. I wouldn't be surprised if the loser here gets to 3 touchdowns, and that is all I can ask for.
It was my initial feel was the over, and I kind of got cold feet. I've got cold feet about this whole game. Great to see you, Miss J. We've missed you. Oh, it's nice to have Miss J in the chat. I get that look, though. The look makes sense to me. This is not the extremely scary Bears defense. Both defenses we expected to be top 5 defenses, and they certainly aren't. And the weather's not bad. GSauce says recipe for this cold weather at night by the lake is running game and running quarterback Zeke and Dak eat. And Nick Schnizzle liking that look from GSauce. It's not that bad. The weather's not that bad. But there's the Thursday Nighter. I love hearing what you're on for the Thursday Nighter, and going to be locking it in right now. We have a lot of college football we want to get to. So we have you for 21 more minutes, and we want to focus on college football. But we can't move forward without hearing your college basketball. You're seeing things very clearly there as well. Are you making any moves in college basketball this evening? And then we'll get into college football.
I appreciate the kudos there. And look, my college hoops has been very simple so far, and it's working. But I've just had through the course of the last month, I've isolated a handful of teams that I'm like, I either want to bet on them or I want to bet against them, and I'm just looking for spots to do that. And that's obviously worked so far this week. We'll see if we can keep it up tonight. Yeah, I made one move tonight in college hoops. I played Furman plus 12.5 at Auburn. Bet on and bet against. Furman forced 24 turnovers at Alabama. From an assist to turnover ratio, they're forcing 18 turnovers a game. And they're not turning it over themselves, which is always the key when, that's one of the stronger home courts in college basketball. However, read an article this morning, Bruce Pearl's like, we need guys to come out. We're not sold out. It's not sold out tonight. It's exams, all that. Everyone's stressed out. You know how it is at college campuses in December. It's not easy to get the normal home court edge. I think Furman gives them a game. If you want to take a shot, maybe take a little bit on the money line. But plus 12.5 is what I have in my pocket, and I thought that price was very reasonable.
Furman plus 12.5. That gives us a lot of fodder to talk about on the late show as well. Bears, Cowboys, and you got on the Bears, Cowboys over, you got 43?
Yes, sir.
Over 43, and Furman plus 12.5. Okay, I know we got to talk college football, but we've had two questions come in about NFL, so let's ask Teddy and be as tight as possible so we can have time for college football. Yeppy says, can you ask Teddy about the Niners winning in New Orleans? During the audible, I gave out the team total over 20.5. I only had 5 minutes between the audible and the late betting with the bag show. As soon as the betting with the bag show was over, I ran to my computer to make the bet, and it was already up to 21.5. I still bet it. But I want to hear your breakdown very much. I've only made two bets on this card: the over 45 in the Jets-Dolphins game and that team total. What do you think about this Niners-New Orleans spot?
So I'll start with the fact I like the over 45 in that Jets Dolphins game. I no argument whatsoever with that. I don't know what to do with San. I don't like this spot for San Fran, okay? That was a tough, physical, brutal game last week against Baltimore. They came up short in the end. Now there's pressure on the 49ers in a way there hasn't been all year, with Seattle winning and with LA winning, and all of a sudden the division's gotten real tight and they're not in first place. Now there's pressure on San Fran too, and there hasn't been any pressure on that team all year. Now there is. I'm not sold. Part of me thinks that the Saints are a fraud. All right. They've won every close game, but they've won every close game. They've got cluster injuries at linebacker. I'm not thrilled with the way Breeze is playing right now. Other than Thomas, this receiving core hasn't blown me away. And I think in some ways, New Orleans is an overvalued commodity. On the other hand, I look at the Saints and say this team could easily win the Super Bowl. They are that good, and it's their spot, and they didn't play great last week at Atlanta, with the short rest, and they're at home, and this is a dominant home field, and they're facing a Niners team that's a little bit beat up and banged up. I don't know what to do with the game. I really don't. I've gone back and forth. I'm excited to watch it. From a wagering standpoint, I doubt I get involved.
It is a tricky spot. I like that the Niners stayed on the road after their last road game. That worked to perfection in weeks 1 and 2, but this is a tricky
That was against Cincinnati, though.
I know. This is much tougher.
Week 2. I had them in week 2 against Cincinnati, and I remember I'm like, wow, this is really easy. It's all the Niners. No, a lot of that was the Bengals.
And then we have one more NFL question before we get into college football, which we need to get in quickly. Bookie Bandit. The Bookie Bandit says, can you ask Teddy about the Steelers Cardinals game? This has turned into a stay away game when I thought I was initially going to make a move on Pittsburgh, and I still might, actually. Let's hear what Teddy's breakdown is. Pittsburgh opening up at 2.5. That's where they stand now. This total sitting at 43.5. There's been a little market movement on this game. Cards, Steelers, take it away, Teddy.
I'm not playing it. It's an absolute stay away game, and it's a stay away game for good reason. All right, number one, the markets continue not to respect Pittsburgh. Okay, when you're playing with a third or fourth string quarterback, whatever Duck Hodges is, when nobody recognizes your skill position talent players anymore, after having named players in that role, we don't even know which Smith-Schuster is going to play this week for Pittsburgh. The Steelers have been undervalued, flat out. The markets have gotten them wrong, and have crashed on Pittsburgh when they should have been buying on Pittsburgh. All that said, this is an Arizona spot, and it's the Steelers coming off these huge games and this huge win come from behind against Cleveland, now laying points on the road. And Arizona was a no-show last week, and they haven't been a no-show all year. They've been feisty. And you read the quotes coming out of that locker room after the loss last week, and my initial reaction was Arizona's bet on this week. But I'm not stepping in front of Pittsburgh because the markets haven't gotten Pittsburgh right. So I'm not going to play the game.
It is a tricky spot. And after losing 34-7, you can expect the Cardinals to come back. It's a tricky spot. I can completely understand where you're coming from. All right. On Monday, Teddy gave us Central Michigan Conference Finals week here. Big games. Are you adding anything to your NCAA football card before we get into questions?
So, Jimmy, it's so funny because all week I'm like, I'm working on the card, see what we add, work on the card, see what we add. I spent a bunch of time working on the card yesterday, and you know how many bets I made at the end of it? 0. So far, I still have Central Michigan. I'm still, I'm going to have the opportunity later today to talk to a couple of odds makers here in Vegas, and I'm going to take some of what I hear from that discussion for tomorrow. But I haven't made a bet. I got a short list. I'm thinking about Oregon. I haven't gotten there. I'm waiting for a 7. Haven't seen the 7. I'm thinking about Oklahoma. Haven't gotten there. I'm thinking about Cincinnati. Haven't gotten there. I'm thinking about Georgia. I haven't gotten there. Thinking about Ohio State. Haven't gotten there. Certainly, Ian was talking about that over in the Clemson game in Virginia. And if you like Virginia, you like the over. Okay, parlay. That's a parlay. That's of all the correlations. All right, Virginia and over is the one that stands out to me, because Clemson's getting theirs, and if Virginia's going to cover, they're going to have to get some, and that game's going to go over the total. So, it's just that simple. If you like Virginia, to me, that correlates strongly with the over. But I'm not convinced Virginia's going to get there. So, I don't know that I'm getting the window with it. But if you do get to the window with it, there's a way to maximize your investment. So, but I'm thinking about doing more work on it. No, I'm not ready to pull the trigger here. No, I'm waiting for a number there. So the only bet I made is the bet I came in here on Monday morning with, and that was Central Michigan, minus the 6.5. We may add more tomorrow. We may not, Jimmy. I can't, I'm not going to force action.
No problem. Sorry to interrupt there.
I was just emphasizing it. Period. I'm not going to force action, damn it.
No problem. I've got tons to fire at you, so I'm just going to start firing at you. We do have questions, but first I want to talk about a couple spots here. You mentioned Oregon and the great big ragu. I feel like and I want to hear what your take is on this. He may have played this market move like a fiddle, but he went in and hammered Oregon plus 6.5, and he took the over 45.5. He waited to those mark. I know that you're talking about waiting until a 7, but that's a pretty big market move. I know Pinnacle opened this at 5, but 5 times opened it at 3. Oregon 6.5 and the over 45.5. We've had Gas Station Sushi, a great capper out of Vegas, already say that he's max betting that first half over. It's possible that there's no rain until the first half is over. What do you think about Big Ragu taking Oregon plus 6.5 and the Oregon-Utah over 45.5?
The only way I'm looking at that game is Oregon, and I guess the only way I would look in that game is over. So I agree with Big Ragu. I hope you go 2-0, buddy. I wouldn't argue. I'm waiting for the 7. Penny's sitting there right now, 6.5 minus 17, which, when you talk about the leading indicator books, I don't know if we see a 7, but we might, and there's no rush for me to get down at 6.5. So what's the urgency? I'm just waiting. I'm not convinced I've stepped in front of Utah a couple of times this year, and I got my teeth kicked in. So it's but you talk about a team with a betting bandwagon. The Utes have covered every game since September. Every point spread in October, every point spread in November. Anyone that's bet Utah has won. and Oregon's pretty good. And Oregon is going to give this title to them. And again, the Utes have all the pressure when you talk about it. Who's the pressure on here? Which team's playing for potentially a spot in the playoffs? Not Oregon. So lean Ducks, but I haven't gotten there yet, and I'm not. Again, I'm not convinced that I will. I think I get there at 7. Probably. It's not a strong play.
Here's another spot where Ragu is doubled up. Cincinnati plus 9.5. Cincinnati, Memphis under 57.5. What do you think of that double up?
Well, I absolutely think that if you're playing Cincy, you're not playing the over in this game. Cincy does good. There's a correlation here with Cincy and under. Memphis gets in the 40s. The Bearcats going to have a hard time trading points. And I'm confident what Cincy's game plan is going to be. Cincy's game plan is going to be run the football, control the clock, keep the Memphis offense off the field. So I do think there is a legitimate correlation between Cincy and under. That's the only way I would bet that one. I like the side a little bit more than the total.
Liking the side, I agree with that. Cincy is something I'm coming close to pulling the trigger on. The next stop is a game that everybody wants to talk about, and it's a spot where Ragu and Boss are on the other side of each other, and Babano just came in with Baylor. People on each side of this spot, Baylor, Oklahoma. Are you any closer to pulling the trigger in this game?
So this is probably the one I'm closest on pulling. As of right now, at the current number, there's 8.5 out there with Oklahoma at a couple of spots. So the Oklahoma side is the way I'm looking here. Sooners have been in this game the last 2 years, and they've performed well in this game the last year, just like Clemson. The teams that are in the championship game and they're going back to the championship game and they have the experience in this setting, in this venue, those are teams in general I want to be on. And Oklahoma's in that spot. Baylor's had a heck of a season. They're a good team. They're not a national championship team. They're not a team that's playing, that deserves to be in the playoffs. And what we saw in the second half, remember, that was in Waco, on Baylor's home field. They have a 28-3 lead, and they lose that game 31-28. And it wasn't fraudulent. Oklahoma beat them. Okay. Slapped them around. Why does that change here? Do we expect the first half? Do we expect the Sooners to get jumped on by Baylor and not be ready for them like they were last time? No, I don't. And we look at the improvement of the Oklahoma defense over the last, and they were better in November than they were in October, for sure. They had that rough stretch against Iowa State and Kansas State where they couldn't get stops. That wasn't the case over the back end of the campaign. For me, it's Sooners or pass. And like I said, Oklahoma's probably of the, other than Central, the Sooners are the number one on my short list right now. I expect to play Oklahoma.
Wow, that is exciting. Very, very exciting. Okay, we're going to keep rolling. I know we have questions, but these are some, there's not a lot of games this weekend. We're going to kind of cover them all. 2-unit play in the Pick 6 contest for Big Ragu, LSU. LSU. What do you think of Big Ragu being bullish on LSU?
I hope he got a good number. I'm seeing 6.5s out there right now here in Vegas. And those are the first 6.5s I've seen. The markets are at 7 offshore, but I hope I don't know if you got a 6.5. They just popped and they're only here in Vegas. So you probably didn't get them in the contest. I don't know what to do with the game. I don't. I talked it all week. I keep talking it, and sometimes you talk stuff out and you're like, all right, and this makes sense and that makes sense, and all of a sudden that helps me. It's part of talking about these games is legitimately a part of my process sometimes. I got a call that I do every week where we go through. I have a buddy that we go through every game every week, and that helps me. I don't know what to do with this. You can make, whatever. LSU's got the best offense in college football. You make case Georgia's got the best defense in college football. Generally we like the defensive-minded underdogs. Sure, in theory. It's worth a lot to the SEC if Georgia wins this game. They have a chance to get 2 teams in. That's worth tens of millions of dollars. That's worth something. Do I think the refs are crooked? No. Do I think the league is crooked? No. Do I think anyone throwing a flag is going to say, oh, well, it's going to make us a lot more money as a league if I throw this one? No. But subconsciously, unconsciously, sometimes things happen in the financial interests of conferences. And this is one where there's a legit case to be made that it's worth a lot of money for the SEC to get Georgia to get this win. And they got a chance to get 2 teams in, a legitimate chance. I don't know that Georgia can stop LSU. I don't know that Georgia can score enough to hang with LSU. So for as much as I lean towards the defensive-minded dogs, I'm not getting there with Georgia. Of course, I'm not going to lay with LSU. They're going against a defensive-minded dog. They haven't played a defense like Georgia's all year. And I do believe in Georgia's defense. And if there's one team that has a chance to play a better game than what we've seen out of them, we've seen greatness out of LSU. Georgia's shown flashes. We haven't seen the great game, the great step-up game from Georgia. They might have one in them. I'm going to pass.
All right, I got to. There's a bunch of questions we need to ask you, and we have no time.
Sorry, I'll go quick from now on.
No, I love it. It's very interesting, and this is the game that everyone wants to talk about. Dwayne Reed says LSU at 6.5 is a steal. Dwayne Reed like in the under 55 total. Dwayne Reed like in the under 23.5 for Georgia. And David saying, what about the total? Would you make a move on the over or the under if you were given a free spot?
I don't trust Georgia's offense. I don't. But I can't tell you that I would be shocked if this game was a shootout, because I wouldn't. LSU scored against everyone, even some really good defenses. Georgia might be the best defense they faced, but LSU's not a team I want to play an under with. Not in this point spread range. That being said, I'm curious. Georgia at 54. How many times has Georgia gone over 54 in the last couple of months? Not many. Not many at all. Let me look at that real quick. I'm off the top of my head, 54 for Georgia, because they've been under. Gosh darn it, where'd they go? Okay. The 52-7 went over last week against Georgia Tech. And other than that, they got to 57 against Tennessee. That was the first week of October. They're not all their games have been in the 30s. That's the way Georgia wants to play. But this isn't even one of those deals where side and total are related. Oh, I'm confident that if the game's high scoring, that it's going to be LSU, and if it's low scoring, it's going to be Georgia. I'm not. I'm passing. It's a hard game. This is not a game to load the dump truck up to, in my opinion. It's if you want to bet it, sure, but it's an action wager, not a step-up wager. Unless you see something I'm not, which I'm sure people do.
Casano Magic says, Jimmy, can you ask Teddy, does he like Boise State minus 13.5? I can tell you that DJ Big Boss is on Hawaii plus 13.5. What do you think about Casano Magic's question in this spot, Boise State, Hawaii?
So Babano's point earlier was spot on, all right? We want to know exactly what this weather's going to be. If it's cold and nasty and rain, it's supposed to be raining, but is this going to be one of these cold November rains where it's just miserable for the Hawaii kids? I trust Hawaii to battle. I don't trust Hawaii to battle if they're down 3 scores and it's the fourth quarter and it's pouring rain and it's cold and windy. They're not fighting. You know what I mean? We'll see teams lay down in that spot, even Hawaii. So I'm concerned about that. I really am. Total wild card. The over makes a ton of sense in this game. I don't think Hawaii's going to stop Boise. On the other hand, Hawaii's defense come up with a couple of performances, and I'm like, where did that come from? Where did that come? Their defense might be better than we give it credit for. Not a game I'm going to bet.
2 questions came in regarding that Oklahoma-Baylor spot. You've already talked about possibly making a move towards Oklahoma. G-Saw says, doesn't Oklahoma team total over make sense, seeing how much they put up in the second half? And Casano Magic says, Jimmy, can you ask Teddy about the under 64 in the Baylor game, please? G-Saw and Casano Magic sort of on 2 different angles on this. What do you think of the Oklahoma team total and the overall total in the game?
So the Sooners defense has played better in recent weeks. I'm not looking to play this over. I don't think Baylor's going to be moving up and down the field. So if I had to play the game, I look at the Oklahoma side and the under. When it came to and this is again, I'm willing to bet against Baylor's pedestrian offense in that regard. So, but I could picture this game being a defensive scrum, and where Oklahoma, whatever, 24-10 or something. So I'm not necessarily thrilled about playing the Sooners over here, team total wise. It's not a total I'm going to get involved with.
Not a total you're going to get involved with. We've gone through all of Ragu's plays. Tomorrow I'm going to go over some of Big Boss's looks, but we have a quick question coming in. We actually have two. Let's just see if we can get the one. One is our guy, Prince of the City, liking App State here. Liking App State. Opened up a -3 now, 6 or 6.5. Still likes him even at 6. And a couple other guys in the chat still like him at 6. What do you think of 20th ranked App State at 6 here? Would you take him?
Well, I mean, these two teams have played a couple of battles, you know. They played once earlier this year. They played in the conference championship last year. I'm expecting another battle. I don't think that there's any class difference between the Mountaineers and the Raging Cajuns. And when I'm not seeing a class difference, I'm not thrilled about laying points, even on a home field. It's not a game I'm going to play. I wouldn't talk you out of it by any stretch. But my slightest of leans is towards the Raging Cajuns. Plus, I'm not playing it.
Headshot, I can answer that question, but let's take advantage of Teddy being here, and I'll answer that question after Teddy. Finally, Teddy, last question we have a question that has come in from our guy David Chamilio saying, thoughts on plus 16.5 with Wisconsin, Ohio State. We'll talk more about this game tomorrow, but that's the final question on the card. David wondering what you think about backing the dog plus the points.
I want to know, there are two teams I'm not going to step in front of, flat out, okay? And if they play each other for the national title, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I ain't stepping in front of Ohio State, and I ain't stepping in front of Clemson. That's my 1 and 2 ranked teams in my power ratings. They've done nothing but win games and cover spreads for the last 2 months, basically. And I'm not going – Ohio State's a lot better than Wisconsin. They showed it once already. And if the Badgers fall behind, which they will, if they can't run the football, which they won't be able to do, how do they hang in this game? I don't see it. Ohio State or nothing for me.
Ohio State or nothing. Chris Brady says don't bet against Ohio State to cover. There you have it. Teddy Covers joining us, and we have one more day with Teddy. We're going to have to be prepared to fire quick questions at him because we have so much to talk about. What a great time of year. Thank you so much for joining us, Teddy. Follow this man on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. Teddy, thank you so much for joining us. I will review your plays with everybody in a second, but thank you for your time, insights, and hard work, and have a great Thursday, my friend.
I'm doing my best, brother. All the best, Jimmy. All the best to the low baggers in the chat. Thanks so much for spending time out of your busy day with me and Jimmy. Really appreciate it. Good luck tonight, guys.
Teddy has got to the window with Central Michigan. We'll see if he makes additions. He's on Chicago, Dallas over 43 in the Thursday nighter. Also backing Furman plus 12.5 in college basketball. And a lot of guys rocked with his college basketball last night. And our guy Kevin Taylor says, please thank Teddy for because Kevin Taylor parlayed Boise State and Ohio State. Great job, Teddy.